Thank you.
Wow, it's much more full than last time. Welcome, everyone, to, at last, the second event of this kind that we're doing. And the last time we met around 6 months ago. And we worked really, really hard on all the products you're going to see today. But before we get there, I think it always matters to just reflect on why we're here, why we think what we do matters, and also why it matters right now. And so, Sam, why don't you kick it off with that?
Yeah, so this is a very cool moment for us. And I was reflecting on 5 years ago when we started talking about this. Alex and I were on a long walk through the city, so it's nice to be back here for this event. And we were talking about what trust in the age of AGI was going to look like. This was way before ChatGPT, but we were both very interested in AI and what that was going to mean as work kept going and we kept progressing towards where we're getting to now. And it became clear to us, or it was clear to us, that there was a need for something like this, that we needed some sort of way for identifying, authenticating humans in the age of AGI. We needed a way that we could know what content was made by a human, by an AI. We wanted a way to make sure that humans stayed special and central in a world where the internet was going to have lots of AI-driven content. We wanted a way to think about how we were going to distribute access to these systems' resources. And we started brainstorming about what that might look like. We had all kinds of new ideas, how you'd have new kinds of social products where you could finally deal with the bot problem, how you could preserve privacy in a new way. And we started brainstorming technical solutions. We also talked a lot about the need to include a financial network of some sort. It was clear to us that authentication and proof of humanity was an important component, but it was also clear that one of the most important problems, one of the reasons you needed this, was for people to be able to exchange value, for people and AIs to exchange value, someday for AIs and AIs to do it. And so we started thinking about how we could bring these things together. And the initial ideas were very crazy. Then we came down to one that was just a little bit crazy, which became World. And we've got some great progress to share today.
Yeah, and so with these motivations, we realized that what we're actually talking about is some version of a real human network. And as Sam mentioned, it will be a combination of proof of human and financial primitives, and maybe even more as we go along. That turned out to be World. And also back then, we came up with a simple plan that actually never really changed, and I don't think it will change in the next 10 years. It had a couple simple steps. The first one was all about building a proof of human system that is truly global, can scale to billions of people, is privacy preserving, and most importantly, it will also work in a world of increasingly strong AI. Then second, use such a system to distribute ownership in a digital token to eventually every human. And use that to bootstrap the network to critical scale. Because none of those networks actually matter if they don't get to scale. To then, 3, actually reach critical scale and show initial utility. To then 4, shift our entire focus towards the decentralization and further scaling of these networks. To then 5, actually reach global scale, make the benefits of AGI and other technological innovations available to everyone. Today we will talk about how to get to more scale, but also how this will actually be useful in the coming months. And lastly, we will cover decentralization and why we care so much about it, and what the next big steps there will be. Of course, another core idea right from the beginning was motivated by us believing that if we succeed on this mission, this is turning out to be very, very critical infrastructure for everyone. Not only for us and for the products we want to build, but potentially even governments and certainly many other companies. And so it kind of has to be an open protocol that is owned by everyone.
This to me is one of the coolest things about the potential for blockchain technology. I think if you look throughout history, the more we've been able to decentralize, democratize governance, access, ownership, the more we can put things into people's hands and make kind of collective decisions, the better. And I think we can now, with new technology, take that further than we ever have before. So I'm very excited about that as part of the vision here.
OK, and then we took that simple plan. We built a proof of human. We launched a network in July 2023. And that was the beginning of a crazy journey for us. Many high highs, some low lows, and everything in between. And since we last spoke about 6 months ago, we doubled our user base. We're now 26 million users in World App, 12 million of which are verified.
This is incredible. Yeah. The world team is just unbelievably talented, and the work that has gone into making this happen, been very proud to see it all come together.
And I mean, of course, that's something to be really proud of, but we still have 2 or 3 orders of magnitude to go, in some sense. So it really is just the beginning. And then something else really has been missing. That is kind of how we really started this project, because we started the company right here in San Francisco, near South Park. And we wanted to scale it to the entire world from here. And so, of course, what has been missing is the United States of America.
I think this is awesome. I'm a very proud American. I think America should lead innovation, not fight it off. And this has been sort of a sad thing about tech in America. And so to kind of right this wrong finally, I'm very happy.
OK, so that is, of course, the first big announcement of today. Starting tomorrow, World all-related services and products will be available in the United States of America. And that is very, very exciting. OK, thank you.
I will get out of your way. Thank you.
All right. And so we will talk much more about what that actually means and what launching the US really means. But before we get there, we talk about many of the products and kind of core updates about the protocol that we really care about. We will talk about the Orb, which, of course, issues a proof of human. We talk about World ID that actually makes that useful to platforms, to then go to WorldCoin, which we never really talked about, which is the underlying token of the network, to then lastly talk about World App, which is our client for this network that we think matters so much. And so with the risk of repeating myself, because I kind of said the same thing last time, but I still think it matters to talk about proof of human and why it matters and what it is all about. One of the seminal tests of computer science, of course, was the Turing test. And I remember when I was in university and I took computer science classes, it sounded like something that's super, super far out and might take decades to ever get to. And the test is all about, will we be able to distinguish if we interact with something in a digital world, that something is in fact a human or it's an AI system. And that sounded so far out back then, but sometime between the launch of ChatGPT and today, we clearly passed this test. And not only that is the case, but of course now we get real-time video generation. All of this is going to get cheaper and more scaled. We are getting agents that will coexist with us on the internet. And all of this is super, super exciting in most cases. But still, we will need a new test that will help us to coexist with these AI systems in a positive way in many of the services that we care about. And that is a global scale proof of human. And unfortunately, as I said last time, this is an extremely hard problem to solve. And right from the beginning, trust me, we tried everything to not build a hardware device, explored everything, from using online reputation to maybe relying on government identity systems to all kinds of other things. But if you really believe what we believe in terms of AI progress and the importance of such technology, none of those things really work out. Because it has to be truly global, it has to be truly inclusive, and it has to be privacy preserving at its core. And that is why we have built the Orb, which we spent millions of dollars and a lot of time to really get to develop and now roll out. And last time, we talked about the new version of the Orb, which looks like that, and some of you have probably seen outside. Today, we will talk about where this is now standing, but much more importantly, what is next, and how we get this to billion people scale. And for that, I'm going to give it over to Rich.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Alex. So this is the Orb. It's powered by the latest NVIDIA Jetson processor, running sophisticated AI models, using a number of visible light and infrared sensors to determine humanness. And we can also manufacture these in much higher scale than we could previously. I'm happy to announce we're just beginning production now on this new version of the Orb. It will be rolling out across the US tomorrow in select cities and globally over the next coming months. And I'm also So I'm also very proud to announce we're opening our own assembly line in Richardson, Texas, with a US manufacturer to actually assemble orbs in the US, not just for the US market, but to also help with the production scale of our orbs. And scale and distribution are problems that are always front of mind for us. And so for our launch in the US, we plan to deploy 7,500 orbs across the US by the end of this year. And to put that in context, that's 4 times more than orbs we have globally today. So with this number of orbs deployed across the US, this is going to give convenient access to orb verifications to nearly every American. And let's talk about the verification itself. Last year, we talked a little bit about the self-serve verification flow, which will enable people to go up to an orb, maybe in a coffee shop or a convenience store, and verify themselves without the assistance of an operator. I'd love to show it to you today, kind of give you a sneak peek. So I've got Tawanda, our product manager from World ID. We have a lot of fans here tonight, Tawanda. So Tawanda is our product manager of World ID. Him and his team have been working tirelessly over the last many months to really simplify the process, assuming that people who verify have likely never seen an orb before. So tell us how it's going, Tawanda.
We've rebuilt and redesigned the experience so that anybody in the world can figure it out and easily, quickly, and seamlessly verify.
That sounds amazing. But I'd love to make it just a little bit more challenging for you. So what if we put on some glasses on you, and you assume that you've never seen an orb before? Of course, Tawanda has built this verification flow and is very familiar, but assuming you don't know how to verify yourself, maybe you can just be a little out of position. I'd love to see how the orb reacts.
Okay, let's give it a spin.
Nothing like a live demo here. So he just scanned his QR code from his World app. That'll connect the orb with his device, and that starts the process. All right, so he's a little bit too far from the orb. It asks him to move a little bit closer. Try it one more time. The stage lights might be affecting the cameras we're afraid of, but it'll work. Perfect. Bear with us here. Nothing like a live demo.
Live demos.
All
Let's
right,
go.
here we go.
Okay.
All right. Scan his QR code, so he's paired the orb with his phone. All right, so it's asking him to move a little bit closer because he's standing too far away. And you don't have to be in the exact position, but just approximately right. So now it knows he's in the right position. But it sees something. So the orb detected something was covering his face, and he forgot to remove his glasses. So he just took those off. And now the orb can clearly see his face and his eyes, and should just take a few seconds to finish its process. There we go. Simple as that. Yeah. Awesome, Tawanda. So as you can see behind me, it first is verifying that he is in fact a human. And then it's informing him that his data is being sent just to his device, so he controls it, and then reminding him that all his data is being deleted from the orb. Thanks so much, Tawana.
Easy, right?
All right, so to recap, we've got orbs on display here. If you haven't verified, I would ask you, go check one out after and get your verified World ID. Launching tomorrow across the US in select cities. And if you're a community operator, you've reserved your very own orb, or maybe you received one at the last event, those deliveries will begin shipping later this summer. So if you just take a look back over the past couple of years to the evolution of the orb and how it started, the very first prototype you can see up here on the left, and the one that we're just starting production on, you can see on the right. Some things haven't quite changed. The scale of the orb largely has remained the same. The iconic spherical shape also the same. And even though the orb today is capable of well over 100 million verifications, there are billions of people. And so how can we scale orbs to billions of people? We had an idea that I'd love to share with you. Put orbs in the hands of the people. So introducing Orb Mini, the first truly mobile orb. This is a very early model we wanted to give you a sneak peek of tonight. But with people carrying Orb Minis wherever they go, it's going to provide greater access to verifications. It would even enable us to connect people who want to be verified with somebody who might have an Orb Mini, much like Uber would connect a passenger with a driver. This will increase verification scale another factor of 10, giving verification access to billions of people. And one last thing. Of course, everyone here tonight will get a free Orb Mini. So we will have a special Pioneer Edition Orb Mini, the first 1,000 that are being built. And to receive one, all you need to do with your World ID, after the event, there will be some stations out back where you can use your World ID and claim a card that we've made. Looks strikingly like the Orb Mini itself. And with this, it has a verification code, and you can use that to redeem it for your very own Orb Mini. Shipping next year, 2026. Thank you. Thanks, Alex.
All right, that was a close call with the verification. OK, I mean, I could not be more excited about Orb Mini. I think that's going to be really, really cool. I think that will allow us to scale this up much, much faster. And of course, the big, big news are 7,500 orbs across the United States in the next 12 months. So now let's talk about World ID. We discussed proof of human, the necessity of it. We discussed how we actually can get one with an orb. But World ID is really what makes that useful. World ID is what big platforms can integrate and what you will be able to actually use on these platforms to verify your humanity. And since the beginning of thinking about this product, we always believed that there's 3 main areas where this is going to matter in the beginning the most. It was gaming, dating, and social. And so let's start with gaming. I was a gamer myself when I was 16, 17. And back then, bots were not actually really an issue because if you were reasonably good at a game, these bots were always worse than you are. And so it kind of was a cool thing, because if you were new to a game, you could learn it with these bots. But since pretty recently, that is changing. And if it's not already the case, in most games, AIs will be better than actual other people. And that will be kind of very, very annoying for this entire industry, and will kind of minimize actual fair play. And that is why we partnered with Razer a couple months ago already to make proof of human and World ID the standard across gaming. And so already today, you can actually verify your Razer ID with World ID's proof of human, and you can use that across all the different games that Razer supports. But of course, we want to go much, much further. This is really just the beginning of turning this into the standard of gaming. And so as a next step, starting next month, we will have orbs in all Razer stores, and gamers can verify where they love to go. Second, we will have what we call the League of Humans tournament. That is a fully online, large-scale tournament that is truly just for humans. While usually all of those tournaments are in person if they have prize money, because otherwise people can fool them and can fake them. And lastly, with Razer, something I'm really, really excited about is we will explore how we can bring deep face and even hardware into Razer cameras. Because in many cases, it doesn't only matter that you game with any human, but what human you're gaming with. And deepface allows us to do that. And, well, I couldn't be more excited about that. OK, and while it obviously matters in gaming that you game with other humans, it really does matter at dating. And that is why I welcome Spencer on stage, the CEO of Match Group.
Thank you, Alex.
Welcome, Spencer.
Thanks, Alex. At Match Group, our goal is to make our apps the best and safest way to meet new people. Safety by design is core to that experience. So today, we're proud to take another step in strengthening trust and authenticity across the dating experience.
And so you want to maybe talk through how this might look like in the future?
Yeah, here's a quick look at what this user journey might look like on Tinder in Japan, which will be launching later this year.
It's going to be very easy. You will be able to log in with your World ID. World app will send a proof to Tinder, and then you can verify not only that you're a human, but in the case of Tinder Japan, even that you're above 18. And then we will explore to roll it out in further products as we go along.
Yeah.
Sorry, Spencer.
Thanks, Alex. Look, this is the perfect use case in dating to improve trust and safety and authenticity across the internet. And at Match Group, as the owner and parent company of the largest collection of dating apps globally, we're incredibly excited to be partnering with you on this new technology.
Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you.
OK, so we talked about gaming, dating. At the last event, we talked about government services with the government of Malaysia and Taiwan. But that is all, of course, just the beginning. We think the internet as a whole will need a proof of human. And one space that I'm personally most excited about will be social. And we will have many exciting things to share as the year progresses. OK, let's talk about WorldCoin, something we never really did. And of course, this was a founding principle of this whole idea. It was all about solving proof of human for the internet, and then using that to launch a digital token by eventually giving ownership in it to every human. And not only do we believe that proof of human will be very important, but we also believe that just by doing that, this token will be very, very important and influential around the world. But first and foremost, of course, we are technologists, and we want to build services and products that improve people's lives. And we really do think a token like this matters to build such a platform. And for that, I'm going to hand it over to Adrian to talk what is next with the token itself, why it matters to build such a platform, and how we will decentralize it.
Thanks, Alex.
There's a lot of folks here today. So we've talked about the token for 30 seconds on stage, which is a new record. And we haven't yet mentioned what it's for, which is a question that we get asked day in and day out. And so I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about what it's for in the past, present, and how we think it's going to play an important role in the future of World as a network. The first function that we have gotten out of having a token is a very simple one. It gave us the ability to build a network that currently has over 26 million users, and over 12 million of whom have taken the effort to go to an orb to verify their humanity. Classically, we can look back at other financial networks, PayPal, for example, who have used a similar strategy for building their network, taking a small incentive at the time of about $10 and using it to build that network. So we've made great progress there, and that's the first use case that we had for the token. The second thing we had to think about, though, is as the network gets even bigger, we begin to run into questions about the sustainability of that network. If I'm going to build my business, if Match is going to rely on our business day in and day out, enabling their technology, they need to make sure that it's sustainable. And so one of the most important functions that WorldCoin is going to provide for the protocol in the future is that sustainability. What does that mean exactly? Well, when you look at a piece of technology and you ask, can I trust it? It turns out that's a really hard problem. Most people don't even know where to begin when they think about trust. They'll ask a question like, what is it? How does it work? And once they begin to understand how a technology works, then they'll ask, is it always going to be that way, or could it change sometime in the future so that I can no longer use it? Or even worse than that, is there someone outside of it that could cause it to change? Most of the work in Web3 is focused on exactly those three problems. How do you build a protocol that is as open as possible, that anyone can understand how the technology works, that is decentralized in such a way that no one party can control it, shape it, manipulate it, and change it out from underneath you, and that there's no party outside of the protocol that can just make it stop working and block it? And so WorldCoin gives us the ability to create the incentives to make that possible. That anybody in the world, whether they be a user, whether they be a government, whether they be a large application, they can trust that it will continue to work now and in the future exactly the way that they expect. There's one thing that you need. You need somebody who gets value from the protocol, and you need somebody else that gets value from providing the protocol. And if both of them have a symbiotic relationship, then the protocol is able to be successful. The way that we establish that with World is actually very straightforward. World ID fees use WorldCoin on WorldChain to make applications be successful. And then those who provide the underlying technology also become successful because those fees support the technology. We released a blog post earlier today that described in great detail how that works, and we're going to have even more detail about how it works as the system becomes online over the next coming months. But I'll spend one moment and give you a visual to explain what it looks like, right? You have an application, Match, Razer. They see value in creating a human experience, a human-only experience, or one that's been protected against bots or AI. They're willing to spend money. It turns out, when we look across the internet right now, there are many companies that are spending tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Some of them are spending billions of dollars to try to replicate the kinds of capabilities that World provides basically out of the box. Of course, building that is expensive. And the people who have built it want to make revenue. They want to have a business where they can continue to sustain it. Now, the specification of what those fees look like is up to whoever it is that built the part that was relevant. So for us, the most important thing is a proof of a specific attribute associated with a person. A proof of humanness, for example, that came from an orb has a certain amount of value, and therefore there should be some compensation, and whoever made that begins to describe it. The protocol enforces those rules so that everybody that's involved knows that they're going to be that way consistently and into the future. And the community decides collectively over time what that's going to look like. They can make decisions about how fees accrete to the protocol itself to provide sustainability. Is that a value that's going to flow back to the user, as has been the case with the airdrops that have happened so far and the grants that have happened so far? Is it going to be burned? Those are the types of questions that the community can establish into the future about how they want the protocol to work. So there's more detail in the blog. I'll save you that for now. But I will say that as the system becomes more effective over time, decentralization becomes more and more rapid. More parties are involved, more value is exchanged, and the willingness of participants to participate goes higher. One of the most important things that we've been doing is trying to understand how we think the decentralization of the protocol will take place over time. We have a blog post that's coming out and a white paper that are coming out in the next week that'll describe the stages of decentralization and how we expect to make progress. Within the next year and a half, by the end of 2026, we expect to be in the later stages of decentralization where the reliability, the trustworthiness, and the value and sustainability of the protocol is such that even the most valuable services in the world, the most critical ones to our infrastructure, the types of things that Alex likes to talk about, democracy and government services, can be built using this in a trustworthy way. For me, it makes me proud. It makes me proud of the fact that I've helped to build something like this, and to be blunt, it makes me proud of having the opportunity to have even a small ownership stake in that protocol, which Alex really likes to talk about. So Alex, do you want to talk about ownership of the protocol?
OK, so as we said early, all services related to World will be available in the US, and the same is true for WorldCoin. But not only that, we want to take everyone along the ride, and we want to be fair. And so everyone that downloaded World app anytime before today will receive what we call the Pioneer Grant, which is 150 WLD. Which is exactly as much as you would have been able to get if you verified the day of launch. And so we kind of just want to make it fair. So this obviously was a more technical part of the presentation, but we really, really think that matters, and we spend a lot of effort and resources in that direction. We talked about fees, we talked about decentralization progress, and then, of course, we talked about a Pioneer Grant. So now let's talk about World app. Everything we covered so far is the protocol. World ID, WorldCoin, all of that is just the protocol layer. But we, as Tools for Humanity, we need to build the first actual client for that protocol. And that turned out to be World app. You need to understand that there will be many others, and many of the services that you use today will integrate with the network in one way or the other. But that doesn't mean we cannot be ambitious where we want to take this. And so in the limit, we are building the super app for humans, and we want to build the largest of that. It's going to take us a long time. It's going to take many iterations. It's a really hard thing to do, but that is the ultimate goal of this product. And to talk about what is next here, I'm going to hand it over to Thiago.
It's been a crazy 6 months for World app. We introduced version 3.0 about 6 months ago in the fall. And since then, the number of users on the app has almost doubled. But we're not slowing down. So today, I'm excited to share with you the first preview of World app 4.0. In summary, we redesigned everything. We looked at every single part of the app to make sure that it was as useful, as simple, and as delightful as it could be. Let's dive right in. Like most things in World, it starts with World ID, your proof of human. You can use the app to find the nearest orb. And once you verify, we have a new section where you can check out some of the exclusive things you get to do for being a real human. Now, many of these are mini apps. Mini apps are third-party applications that can run right inside of the app and leverage the proof of human and the finance side of the network to provide new services that weren't possible before. We launched them in the fall, and it's been bonkers. People have already used mini apps more than 500 million times, and it's going up at an incredible rate. And this is what they look like. This is your new homepage on World app 4.0. You can see all of your mini apps at a glance. And now also, you have widgets so that you can get quick info at a sneak peek. We've also given the App Store a makeover so that it's easier to explore things like apps, games, and coins that are available. Something else that we're doing with mini apps is add new payment methods, so that in addition to being able to pay with things like your wallet, you can now also use your credit card or Apple Pay on select mini apps. A really cool one that I'm excited about that is launching today is Kalshi, which is going to use one of these new payment methods powered by Zero Hash to let you participate in prediction markets for things like sporting events using your WorldCoin. I'm very excited to see this launch today. And one of the most beloved mini apps of the last few months was World Chat. It is a simple encrypted messenger built on top of the network. And people loved it so much that we're actually going to double down on it and build it right into the app. It looks simple, but don't let that fool you. It has a couple of tricks up its sleeve. First, because it's built on World, when you're texting with someone, you can see whether they're a verified human or not. And so you know when you have to be a little bit more careful in a conversation. And we're taking that a step further by introducing verified profile pictures, which you can optionally set as long as the face actually matches what the orb saw before. And of course, because World is not only an identity network, but a financial network, you can attach money right on the spot, just like you would a picture or a voice memo. Now, let's talk a little bit more about finance. World app has a wallet built right into it, and people love it. In fact, we just crossed 350 million verifications, up from 150 million at the end of last year. The new wallet in 4.0 makes it much easier for you to track and hold things like your WorldCoin or other assets. But where it really shines is on the new cash page, which allows you to hold and use currencies from all over the world in just one place. It's really cool. You really have to try it. And now you can do a bunch of things with those currencies. You can do things like send them to other countries, to your friends and family in seconds with no fees. You can stash them in the vault and earn a little bit every second, more often than not, more than you would on a bank account. You can also connect them with mini apps like Morpho, which is also launching today on World, which allows you to earn and borrow directly on your wallet. And for those times where you need to interact with the traditional banking system, like, for example, getting your salary, you will now also be able to get account numbers to be able to do that. Now, while you don't need to know anything about blockchains to use the new wallet, behind the scenes, all of this is powered by stablecoins on WorldChain. And the key here is using the right stablecoins, which is why I'm so excited to share with you a new partnership to bring the most trusted US dollar and euro stablecoins to WorldChain with Circle. Now, this is only the beginning, and over the coming weeks and months, we will share more news for other international currencies. Now, the last piece, if you want to make a killer financial app, is payments. And so we also have news there. I'm excited to share a new partnership with Stripe. Very soon, you will be able to pay with your World app directly on Stripe-enabled websites and apps with the tap of a button. I can't wait for you to be able to use it. But now, let's be honest. Sometimes you're just walking around and you want to have a pizza or a beer, and Stripe isn't there, right? They probably don't yet accept QR code payments. And so what do? Well, it turns out someone already solved that problem many years ago. And so I'm very excited to share with you our latest product. And we're calling it WorldCard. We're incredibly excited to partner with Visa to execute on our vision for what finance should look like in a post-AGI world, starting with letting you pay with World in more than 150 million merchants around the world. We can't wait for you to get your hands on this. And so that's World App. It's your identity, your finance, your chat, and your apps all in one place. The new design and the pre-orders for WorldCard are coming today, and the full 4.0 release is coming later this summer. Thank you.
OK, we talked about a lot of different things across the Orb, across World ID, and finally World App. Now let's talk about how the launch actually works. And so starting tomorrow, we will have flagship locations in many of the cities across America. And just to name a couple, it's going to be in San Francisco, right here at Union Square. Los Angeles, Miami, Atlanta, Austin, Nashville, and many more are coming soon. But of course, you shouldn't forget that this is really just the beginning. As Rich mentioned, we will roll out over 7,000 orbs across the US. And so the way to think about this is they will really be everywhere. They will be in gas stations, convenience stores, and you will be able to verify within 10 minutes basically wherever you are. That's the goal. It's going to take us time. It's going to be hard to execute against, but I'm pretty sure we will get there. That's it for today. Thank you all for coming.